Hello.
Greetings, greetings.
How you doing, Jerome?
Doing amazing. Great to see you, Ren.
Great to see you too. And honored to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh my gosh, honored to have you here. I just,
Apologies, I had some technical difficulties getting.
no worries, no worries. It happens all the time. It happens more often than you would think. And then, I just want to make sure that I am pronouncing your name correctly. Do, do friends call you Ren?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, my real name, well, my full name is actually Renee. My nickname is Ren. So,
Renee. Okay. Awesome, awesome. My favorite aunt, her name is Renee. My favorite aunt. So that's easy to remember. Renee.
or just Ren for short, whatever works.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, Renee. And then the sun glow piece. The sun glow. Did you add that yourself?
That's actually where the road of the property I grew up on. So that's where I'm from. So it's
That's the
like
what?
Renee, the road of the property I grew up on. So my mum's family land that I grew up on. So it's like Ren from Sunglow,
Ren from Sunglow.
but it's just Ren
Oh,
Sunglow. That's it.
it's the road of the property. You said your family owned the property of the road called Sunglow.
Yeah.
Wow, the Sunglow family, the Sunglow lineage.
Yeah. Well, I think like back in the day, and this is like a really interesting concept. I don't know if you've kind of gone down like the rabbit hole of the birth certificate and the truth about that and how the surname is actually the serf name. It's like a slave name. And back in the day, they used to say like house of such and such instead of your last name. Or there was even this concept of you would say like Renee from Sunglows, like Renee from this town or Renee from this area. And that was kind of like a traditional thing from a very long time ago. And that was just something that, I just kind of did for fun. Ren
Right.
from Sunglow. And that's kind of just what I put out there as like my public figure that I put out to social media. But yeah, essentially it's my name and where I'm from.
Right, right. Oh, thank you for giving me already just so much depth and just so much, historical wisdom like this stuff just taking us way back. Like it sounds like almost like Thor of Asgard or
Yeah,
Loki of Asgard, you
pretty
know?
much. Yep.
Like
Same deal.
you say your name and then where you're from, like where you hold your claim, like what your name and then where you claim,
Yeah,
where you hail
well,
from, almost like
exactly. And then it's like there's this idea that you're magnetically kind of connected to your hometown, you know what I mean? Or your home area. So it's like that magnetic resonance with you.
okay, okay, and it's also kind of when you were talking about the houses, it had a feeling of like Game of Thrones. They had the House of Stark, the
Yeah,
the House of Lannister,
exactly.
the House of Baratheon and the House of the Dragon and all these houses, right?
Yeah, the royals don't use a slave name or a serf name. They use house of.
Okay.
So you'll have
Wow.
like Prince Charles House of, such and such. I
Exactly.
can't remember what their house of name is, but yeah, they go house of by house of,
Okay, so the surname is the serf name, and serf is equivalent to slave.
pretty much. It's a pretty
Interesting.
deep rabbit hole to go down. I mean, it's not worth taking too much time and energy on and freaking out about it. Like, I think it's always just best to focus on what we can control, but it's just interesting knowledge, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. It's fascinating already. Just I'm thinking about, you know, so many times when, people might get angry over somebody disrespecting their name, but they don't even realize that their name is linked to something that is tied to something that maybe they don't want to be linked to that. Maybe they might not enjoy being linked to it if they knew, and I guess had more sovereignty with that understanding. So when did you go down that rabbit hole, Renee?
Oh, it's been ongoing for a number of years. I think, like, you could probably say It's like, how long is a piece of string? When did I start going down rabbit holes? It must have been, probably a good 15 years ago. When I started, it's like, a gradual process of waking up.
Mhm.
And it's hard to kind of pinpoint when it starts happening. But I think for me, it really started happening when I always had this sense that there was something wrong with this realm in terms
Mhm.
of like government overreach and the medical system. But you just can't really put your finger on it. You can see things happening that don't seem quite right, but it's not until you kind of get a really good prod that you start investigating it, if you know what I mean. And for me, it was probably about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer ago, maybe 16 years ago, when I got I got vaccine damage. I got injured by vaccines,
Oh,
and
man.
that actually started sending me down the rabbit hole and wondering, just questioning things, because I was under the impression, as you know, like we're programmed to believe that these things, and maybe I shouldn't say that word too many times, or maybe we'll get booted off, but
No, it's
you're
okay.
programmed to,
Listen.
yeah, we'll just
Mhm.
jump back on. But you're programmed to believe these things are meant to have our best interests at heart, right? And so you go and get one. And then I actually got really sick after this thing that I got. And I actually got the so-called illness that I was apparently getting for.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and it really just made me start questioning things. And I was like, this just doesn't make much sense. And
Yeah.
I went to the doctor and I'm like, explain to me why this is happening. And the response that he gave me was just so lacking in logic and giving me like these circular definitions of things. And I couldn't quite, I was like, none of this makes sense. You're not giving me any answers.
Right.
And anyway, I still wasn't awake enough yet. And I actually went and got, I think it was about a year later, some travel vaccines. And then I got sick again, like severely sick. And I think that was like, what do they say? Once you're, I can't remember the saying, but like the first time you're kind of innocent, that the second time you're a fool. Forget. And so
Yeah,
I
it's
kind
like
of went
fool
through
me
that
once.
process.
Yeah, fool
Yes,
me once, shame on me, but fool me
twice.
twice,
Yeah.
shame on
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
exactly. So I kind of went through that process with getting these things. And by the second time it happened, I was like, there's something severely wrong here.
Hmm.
And why did you get it again? Like, what are you doing? You should have realized this the first time. But it's like, I had to go through that process again a second time. And I was really, really sick the second time. And I actually went and sought the assistance of a naturopath. And she gently red pilled me to a certain degree, if you could say it that way. But she sent me down the rabbit hole gently, not giving me the answers, but just suggesting things that I should investigate. And she basically opened me up to the deception of these and sent me down the rabbit hole in that respect. And also about, the water quality with fluoride and all of that stuff. And then, of course, as you start going down these rabbit holes, you start finding other rabbit holes to go down. So then I started finding things about the government and how it's all linked. And you kind of see, like, from a bigger picture perspective, when you zoom out, that it's really just from the top down, it's all like this big system of control. And
Wow.
then from there, like, you kind of just branch out. And I think, like, that's just a part of the awakening process for us to become self-empowered
Hmm.
and autonomous and
Hmm.
take our power back, is just realizing that that system exists.
Right.
And a lot of it is really illusion. Do you know what I mean? It's like this illusion of control. So a part of it is being able to step into our power so we can take our control back, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just, you can get really bogged down in those rabbit holes though. And I did for many years. And um, a lot of it wasn't really productive, and it can be really, I don't know, almost a little bit depressing. So
Yes.
once, yeah. So I think it's like really important to, and what I would just say is that know that this system exists, find the knowledge that you need to help empower yourself, but
Mhm.
try not to let it ruin the quality of your life, because
Yes.
it really can. It really can. People can really just lose their minds in this stuff because it is a deep and dark rabbit hole
Hmm.
with a lot of knowledge that isn't really that nice. So
Right.
on this journey of coming back to ourselves, it's important to be able to step out of that and try to get back to your high power and raise your frequency and not let that negative knowledge really pull you down, even though a lot of it can be empowering, but just don't get stuck there, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. It makes
Mm.
complete sense. And I'm really glad that you're giving this message, Renee, because there are so many people that are digging, there's seekers out here, and there's people that really want the knowledge, they want the answers, and they have that seeking mind that can put the blinders on and really focus and concentrate on, this area and that thing, and then they might get sidetracked by this, and then all of a sudden they're in a rabbit hole. And I remember I had one of my really good friends in life. Actually, she was one of my ex-partners. We were together for a time, and I watched the cycle of depression. Like, I saw her go into depression as she witnessed, like you did, with the bird's eye view of the hierarchy and the bird's eye view of all this supremacy and the bird's eye view of all of these things going on in the system and all of these things, the oppression. And she just started to go into depression when she was witnessing all the oppression and all these layers, and just, the red pill going down this avenue of just, anguish and just agony, and just witnessing all of the destruction and all of these things that were going on behind closed doors, and people getting taken, and then, these systems being established, and all of this stuff that's not for our own benefit, that don't have our own interest at heart. And then the conspiracy theories, and just understanding that all of this stuff, it might be true, but what does it do for you? Like, how does it impact you? And
Absolutely.
I just saw her just getting into a darker and darker and darker place, to the point where she almost didn't even want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
She almost just wanted to give up and just let it go. Like, there's just so much she felt was against us as human beings, that, what's the point? What's the point of all this? And,
Yes.
they do say that what we focus on the longest grows the strongest.
Yeah.
So thank you. Just thank you for bringing that message, because it's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think there's like how we know there's controlled opposition and stuff out there, and people who are pushing the truth movement. And I think that's a bit of a psyop as well. Like, I don't know if you've seen those big Great Awakening maps that they put out there, and it has like all the hundreds of conspiracies and stuff and all these rabbit holes that you should go down. And I
Mm,
think it's really just this big distracting mechanism.
mm,
And well, I just say, look, people, it's nice to know that there's this stuff out there, but at the end of the day, like when you're seeking knowledge, always come from a spot of how is this knowledge going to empower me? Can I
right.
use it?
Right.
Or is it just going to send me down this rabbit hole where I'm learning about these things that I don't even know exist? And maybe they do exist, but at the end of the day, just focus on what's going to empower you. There's
Mhm.
certain things about learning about, you know, our heritage in terms of the birth certificate and taxes and stuff like that, that's really empowering, that you can learn to help
Right.
take your, so-called sovereignty back.
Right.
So learn about that stuff, but just know that it's stuff that it needs to percolate in your consciousness for a while, and don't let it just take over you. But at the end of the day, learning about this stuff, especially when it comes to the medical system and
Mhm.
how they've screwed us over, about our divine nature, about how our body heals, about allopathy, the treatment-based thinking, that stuff. It's like it's important to learn that so we can unlearn it,
Right.
right? And then come back to our power as
Mhm.
being our own healer, and not having to outsource that shit to doctors, which they don't even heal, right? You know that. So that's empowering knowledge, and it's a part of that awakening process where we need to separate ourselves from the system. And basically, the way that I look at these mind control programs that have been put out on us, is that everything that comes from a mainstream perspective,
Mhm.
everything that is, a part of the status quo in terms of belief systems, needs to be severely questioned and maybe even put in the bin. And this is a part of the waking up process and taking back our power. So I'm thinking about, like, when we're moving back to the laws of nature,
Mhm.
the way that we consume, how much we consume, if we consume at all in terms of food, we need to look at what the mainstream is putting out. They're telling us nutritional theories.
Right.
They're telling us that we need protein. They're telling us that we need a balanced diet.
Mhm.
They're telling us that we need, all of these minerals, which to a certain degree isn't necessarily untrue, but the way that we consume them in terms of like eating salt. Stuff like this. This is all coming from a mainstream perspective. And a lot of these nutritional theories were created by the food lobbyist groups, right? So it's very hard for people to unlearn this stuff, but these are the things that people need to question. And people can't move forward on a lifestyle of less is more, right? If we're moving towards more of a pranic lifestyle, more of a liquid lifestyle, or even just like living on fruits or raw foods, people aren't going to be able to do that properly if they're still holding these mind control programs that are coming down from the system in terms of how our body is nourished. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. So it makes sense. So we're sort of still in a bind if we don't take care of the mind. Like
Yes.
we're still stuck. You
Yeah,
know? Okay. So
absolutely.
okay, so it doesn't, you're saying the diet really doesn't matter all as much as the mindset change, the mindset shift, or like the reprogramming of what's been installed, you know?
Absolutely. And that's why I actually call it the mindset is the inner key to your success.
Ah,
If you don't have the right mindset or you're holding limiting belief systems,
mhm.
you're not going to get very far. You're not going to get very far at all. And I've actually experienced how powerful the mind is on my
Mm,
journey and how powerful belief systems are on this journey to viscerally, physically impact your body.
yes.
And I'll give you an example of what happened to me. And
Hmm.
it was right after I came off so I did an 89-day long fast. I commenced that in 2022.
89
And
days.
that was, yeah, so 89-day liquid fast.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And that was obviously life changing.
Mhm.
And at the end of that fast, I was, and people don't really appreciate how your frequency shifts to such you go in leaps and bounds. And
Mm,
this is why, like, I don't recommend anyone just jumping onto a long fast unless they've purified the body and prepared mentally, physically,
mm,
emotionally, and spiritually for at least 1 to 3 months
mm.
before going on that long fast, because you shift so fast. And if you're down here and you jump to up here, then you start eating, the crash straight back down is really ungrounding.
Right.
And if that happened to me, like, I didn't prepare properly. I, I think I had to go through that process. So I know now what not to do and how to guide people
Mhm.
because it was really challenging. And I think the only reason why I got through that is because I'm so stubborn. And not only that, I'm also very eager to find information. So
Mm,
when I was on my long fast, I was reading all of this knowledge about how to break fast, how to support my body after a fast. If
mhm,
I didn't do that, I probably would have injured myself and
mm,
could have ended up in a lot of danger. But thankfully, I'm very stubborn and I'm very, you know,
mhm.
eager to seek knowledge.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what got me through. But at the end of the day, I was very sensitive after I broke my fast.
Mhm.
And I was around a woman who is very dear to me. She's almost like my second mum. And she was very concerned about me going through this process. Although she did support me, she comes from a background of science. So nutrition, she did nutritional sciences, and she also did, other studies around that topic. But so she was very concerned about me
Okay.
doing this long fast and then also coming off. And I was just on fruits after I ate, well, after I finished my long fast, because
Okay.
that's the safest thing for you to eat after you break, a really, really long fast. So
Mm,
I was on a strict post-fast protocol where I was eating just fruit pretty much for a certain period of time.
mhm,
And she was very concerned about me. And she, caught up with her one day and she was telling me about how she was so concerned that I wasn't getting enough protein
mm,
and she thought that I was going to be deficient. And before I caught up with her, I actually felt amazing. I felt so high on life, but I was very energetically sensitive to the environment around me. Like, I actually couldn't go out in public for a couple of weeks because
mm.
I just couldn't deal with the world. And seeing, like, especially like walking past a butcher's shop actually affected me so deeply that, I had to go and hibernate because it's that raw death being shoved in your face
Mhm.
after you've raised, to the certain frequency is just really quite triggering.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to reground myself before I was going to be okay with going out in this crazy world. But, I digress. So she was putting her kind of, and this is one of the members in my private community, he's called it fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And then he shortened that to FUD. So, and I love it, FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt can be one of the biggest enemies you have on this journey.
For sure.
And she started projecting her FUD onto me,
Uh,
right?
okay.
And I, without, the subconscious mind, as we know, is very powerful, and it will kind of just take in those negative things without even you knowing it.
Right.
And I thought that I was quite resilient, but I wasn't.
Mm,
And I started taking on her FUD.
okay.
Literally the next day, I was getting all of these unnatural food cravings, and I was eating fruit, but I was eating fruit and it's like I couldn't satisfy myself.
Yeah.
It's like these binge eating tendencies, and I was eating and eating and eating, and I couldn't satisfy myself. And I just thought, oh my gosh, maybe I am deficient. Maybe I'm not getting enough protein. Maybe I need to go and eat some chickpeas. And she was like telling me all these things, these vegan proteins that I should be eating, and tofu. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, but in the back of my mind, I also had, no, but that's mucus forming. It's going to injure you. So it's like I had like the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other, and they were both kind of fighting. And I was just eating fruit. I was like, oh my God. And I couldn't really, just satisfy this hunger. And
Mm,
that went on for a few days. And I was just like, where does this come from?
mhm.
I've been fine. And then all of a sudden, overnight, just like
Yeah.
this unsatisfying hunger. And
Yeah.
I just sat there and I'm like, Renee, sit, breathe. So I kind of like just got into like a meditative state. And I'm like, reflect, where did this come from?
Right.
And I know this sounds a little bit like new agey, like going in and reflecting, but it really does help when you just take the moment to be silent and
Mhm.
try and find, the source of this weird behavior. And I just managed to like reflect and go back to, like, I was kind of like going back the timeline,
Mhm.
right? Of like, when did this start? And I took it back to, the meeting with my friend,
Mhm.
or, my second mum. And I was like, wow, she was the one who was putting her FUD on me
Mm.
about being deficient.
Mm.
And once I had this realization, the hunger went
Wow.
immediately, like almost overnight.
You,
It was so crazy. It's like I took it back. I realized where it was coming from,
mhm.
and I was able to just let it go. But
Wow.
it showed me, and it was a really important lesson for me to go through, because it showed me how powerful the mind is in terms of how our body reacts
Yes.
to consumption and everything else around us.
Yes.
So, and this is why there's also the concept or the idea of the placebo effect.
Mhm.
The mind is so powerful. People can believe that something is doing them good. Even pharmaceutical drugs. People can be taking pharmaceutical drugs. Not that I really, promote that, but they can have a perceived level of healing
Mhm.
just because they believe it's doing something for them.
Very true.
Or it can be even not even, it would just be like a blank, like a tablet with nothing in it.
Right.
And they have a perceived level of healing from that.
Right. Right. This
So,
is so true.
yeah,
This is so
yeah.
true. Yeah.
So the power of the mind is just so incredibly important. And having these belief systems, these mental programs that are put down from mainstream sciences about nutrition, about health, about how the body heals, about the nature of disease, all of these things, if you latch onto these beliefs, it's going to limit your body, or it's going to limit you from allowing your body to do what it needs to do.
Yeah, the body definitely follows the mind. We've seen it on so many levels, and I just love your parallels. I love your examples, and I love just you coming from that testimony of your own lived experience of being able to witness and see the FUD, the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt, to see what came out from the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that the projection, and then also the reflection, and then also that connection, you know and then
Yeah.
for you to sit down in meditation and have your own introspection, to just take yourself and your whole paradigm to another direction. You had to have that moment of reflection. You had to have that moment of silence to let go of the violence, the mental chatter. You had to have that moment of stillness to let go of the illness, to get it off of you. It
I
really,
love that.
I mean, it seems like that to me. It seems like if you hadn't taken that moment to just, rest, you would have still been stressed. You would have it would have been like under duress, like all the time. But we don't take care of the mind. We don't see what we find when we explore the vast regions of the mind. It's right there. it's divine. You know, we've been given this wonderful tool, this instrument. You know, people say this body, I mean, this vehicle, this machine, this bio machine, it has everything. You know, it has all the capability, it has all the boundless, you know, potential. It has all just at our beck and call, just our wildest dreams and imaginations. But we create our own limitations, you know?
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing, it's the belief systems. I just love everything you did with your words just then. It was just so perfect. Loved it.
You just, I mean, you're giving it to me, Renee. Like you're giving all this to me because, you know, I'm just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, you know, here is a lady who was trusting and putting her faith in people who said, okay, if you take this thing, it's gonna save you from that thing. And then you took that thing and you still got that thing. You
Yeah.
know, like it's still, you know, what they said was not supposed to happen happened, and you're questioning, you're just wondering, you're just like, why is this happening? And then when you go to them, they give you, you said like a nonsensical answer, just like it was just so not fulfilling. Like what they gave you was just not what you needed to hear at that moment. It was like, this is not the answer. You know, there has to be another way. There has to be a natural way. There has to be something that feels more whole, you know, that feels more holistic than this approach of just going outside. Maybe I can find something inside that I don't
Mhm.
find outside. So, I mean, I just find it
Absolutely.
phenomenal and just fascinating that you have taken this trip, this journey. You've had these realizations, you've had these revelations, and you went 89 days. Come on, Renee. Renee, 89 days without solid food, something that people think, you know, we're going to die. If we even go just a few days without it, they think we will perish. They think
Yeah.
you're just non-existent. You should just wither away. What gave you the assurance? What gave you the strength and the knowingness to understand that you would be able to undertake 89 days?
Oh, honestly, I didn't even know at the start. It's such an so I was really fascinated with fasting,
Yeah.
and I had really deep spiritual awakening in 2019,
Okay.
and I haven't really spoken in depth about
Hmm.
the full experience, but in a nutshell, it was like a full out of body experience, and I think I was shown my true divine self, and
Hmm.
when I came back into my body, if that's the best way to describe it,
Hmm.
uh, for about 2 weeks, I was just like, I actually felt like I was losing my mind a little bit. But when I first came back into my body, it was so weird, but it was, I think I was still in my divine self, even though I was in this physical body. And although we always are, we just don't realize it a lot of the time, you know. But I had this deep remembering that I don't actually need anything. And I remember just, it was actually really humorous to me because I was laughing at everything going, and during this time, I need to go back a little bit first,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I was not very nice to myself back in this day. I
Okay.
used to drink alcohol, I used to take drugs, I used to smoke cigarettes, I used to do horrible things to myself, Jerome. And I knew it wasn't the best, but I did it. And I think a lot of it came from emotional trauma.
Mm.
And I was also a chronic binge eater. So I had lots of issues related to that, you
Mm.
know, health related issues related to that. But when I had this kind of like coming back to my divine self, this awakening of sorts, I realized that I didn't need anything. And it was
Mm.
this really enlightening moment because I remember I was actually at a party when this happened and I was laughing. Like I had cigarettes, I had alcohol, and I was laughing. I was like, I don't need this and I don't need that. And even water. I was like, I don't even need that. I don't need food. And it was like this deep knowing that we have like our true energy source is that from the creator. Like we don't actually need anything. And I think I was actually shown that for a reason. It was like showing me what is possible, you know? And so from then onwards, it sent me on this journey of self healing. And I
Mm.
wasn't able to sustain that frequency for very long because obviously it's like I took a shortcut there and my body and emotions and mental state weren't at the right frequency to sustain that for a long period of time. So after about 2 weeks, it started you know, going away, and I couldn't really feel it that strongly anymore. But for a while, I was still just really sensitive to the world. I could feel what people were thinking about me. It was really crazy.
Like
But it showed,
telepathy, you were telepathic,
I think you could say something like that, but
or you could feel it
um,
like empathic, like a high level
yeah,
of
just
empathy.
yeah, like so. And I worked in a corporate environment at this
Okay.
stage, so and corporate environments aren't really the nicest places to work in,
Okay.
and I would just be around people and could feel like who didn't like me and who
Wow.
liked me, and like if somebody, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but it it was really crazy, and I just all I wanted to do was just go out into nature and hide from the world. Like that's just kind of the feeling I got.
Hmm.
But over time, it you know, it wasn't that intense. It kind of that ability faded a bit because I think that was kind of just it was just a taster of what I can achieve if I really start to heal myself. So it sent me on this path
Hmm.
of healing myself. So gradually over time, you know, I weaned off cigarettes, I weaned off alcohol, I stopped taking drugs.
Hmm.
And it's not something that I could do overnight. I had to go on this journey to do it, you know. And then during this time, I was investigating all these ways to heal myself, and I knew that optimal health and vitality, it was something that had to be achievable. It wasn't just something that was this idea, you know. And then we're taught that we have to outsource our health to doctors,
Right.
and that just didn't seem right to me either because I'd already gone through this journey with the medical system years
Hmm.
before. So I'd already started disconnecting from that. But in terms of optimal health, you know, I was looking at the world around me and how everyone's in this state of disease, and everyone's in this varying states of disease, and they just accept it as normal. Little things like little skin conditions or, you know, getting migraines occasionally, people just think that's normal. And for me, in the back of my mind, I'm going, that's not normal. That's not normal at all. We should be in optimal health all the time. That should be the standard.
Hmm.
So for me, it was just a process of trying to find the answers on how to find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you know, and fasting. I found my way into the fasting world. So I started just gently practicing short fasts. I was doing 3 to 7 day fasts
Hmm.
regularly over a few years. And it really just, even though they were short fasts, it really just opened me up to this realm. And then I found this protocol, like a long fast protocol using grape juice.
Hmm.
And I watched this story about this man who had done 109 days on this protocol. And he had completely healed himself from ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, severe anxiety and depression,
Wow.
and like a handful of other things. And I just went, wow,
Wow.
this is the protocol for me. And I had no intention of going for 109 days.
Hmm.
Or even like for me, I was just going to go for maybe 10 days. And the
Okay.
funny thing is that when I watched this video of this man, I was already on a 7 day raw juice fast.
Okay.
And I think I was like maybe day 3. I can't even really remember.
Hmm.
But I watched this video and I immediately just went, I'm doing this protocol. So I went out and bought the grape juice. I went out and got all the other herbs and stuff like that and the other elements of the protocol. And I just started. And within 3 days of doing this protocol, I had the most heinous stuff coming out of my body. And I was so shocked and dismayed. And I think the reason why, well, I don't think I know, the reason why I ended up going for so long is because the waste just kept coming out.
It just
And in
kept.
my, it just kept coming. So I didn't eat for 89 days and I pretty much had waste coming out of me every single day.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was horrifying. It did
Wow.
slow down towards the end,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
but
Nothing.
really,
So just for people to get a picture, this is amazing. So nothing solid going in, grape juice going in, solids coming out, day after day after day after day.
yes,
Jesus. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And not
Okay.
just like waste, I'm talking about other stuff, like really, I used to call it toxic sludge. And I think
Uh,
this is the toxic bile that
okay. Like.
comes out as well. And
Okay.
that stuff just smelt like death and decay. So horrible. Parasites over a meter long. And I have a very different view on parasites. People are blaming out there, blaming parasites for the cause of disease. I disagree.
Hmm.
Parasites are there because you know, the body's filthy. They're not the root cause of the disease. They're just there because the conditions are ideal. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But because I was cleaning out all of this waste, the reason why they were there, I also had all of these parasites coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I had gallstones coming out. I had sulfur residues coming out that smelt like just hell, like horrible things. And so initially the plan was just to go for 10 days. Once
Mm-hmm.
the waste started coming out, I just, in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I'll just go for 20 days. Oh, surely the waste will slow down after then. No. It started ramping up even more with more stuff coming out. And then so I go, okay, well, I'll go for 40 days. I mean, 40 sounded like a good number. You know, Jesus fasted for 40 days. So I'll go for 40 days. Got to 40 days, waste is still coming out. So it really, for me, it kind of just kept going up in increments. I
Mm-hmm.
really had no intention of going for as long as I did. And in
Mm-hmm.
hindsight, I probably, if I'd done it differently, you know, this time round, I would have prepared my body a little bit more before going into such a long fast.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the way that it happened for me. I support people differently to the way I did it now, and I make sure that their body is prepared. But it happened. And I ended up going for 89 days. And by the time I got to 89 days, the physical waste from my colon had slowed down, but the waste that was coming out of my urinary tract was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And you do, because if you understand that the kidneys are kind of this two-way filtration system for the lymphatic system and so forth, you realize that that's kind of the gateway for lymphatic drainage, if that makes sense, like through that urinary tract. And the stuff that was coming out was crazy. I even had worms come out through my urinary tract, which was really confronting. And that was
Mm-hmm.
just after I broke my fast. But it was this deep purification of the body. But I ended up having to break my long fast at 89 days because the detoxification symptoms I was getting were just crazy. It was insane. And that was because I really didn't prepare my body enough. If the body's prepared, you should be able to fast for much longer than that. But I was extremely toxic. Yeah, I had a lot coming out, you know. This is like years of drug abuse, alcohol abuse,
Mm-hmm.
smoking cigarettes, all of this stuff. And I
Yeah.
had also been eating flesh and mucus and pus forming foods right up before I started this fast. So I don't actually, when I guide people through this process, especially if they're eating mucus and pus forming foods like flesh, grains, dairy, all of this stuff, stimulants like salt and coffee, I actually get them to do a preparation phase, and that goes for about 2 to 4 weeks
Mm-hmm.
of weaning off those foods. Then you go into a purification phase where you're, you know, using herbs, enemas, and just fruits, not even like liquid ideally. Some people, if they're more experienced, can go liquid, but it's this slow, gradual process, like purifying the body, opening those drainage pathways, the colon, the liver, the kidneys, just gently starting to open those pathways. So then you can go into that deep cellular detox that you get when
Mm-hmm.
you go full liquid. So anyway, long story short, I shouldn't have done such a long fast without preparing my body, but I did just because of lack of knowledge. And I was really, spiritually, I felt ready. And I think, as I said earlier, that I was meant to do that path because as a guide, I need to know what not to do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's so relatable, you know. Like, first of all, I just want to thank you, Renee, for just relaying this information in your authenticity, just the best way you know how, just expressing all of this,
Mm,
because I feel so resonant with you, you know, just I definitely was on, you know, a lot of the same diets, you know, a lot of the same lifestyle, the same style of living when it came to consumption, when it came to that consciousness of thinking that, oh, I need to have this, you know, dead animal carcasses in my body to have protein or to survive or to be alive and all of this stuff, and to think that I'm thriving on things that are dead instead of things that are alive. And so that was kind of my thinking growing up. That's pretty much, you know, my entire family's thinking today. You know, they still live that way. I'm pretty much, you know, the odd one out. I'm the black sheep in the family when it comes to, you know, these health and wellness, you know, methods and modalities that you're speaking of. And as you're going down memory lane and you're giving us these origin stories and these spiritual awakenings, there were so many things that were just opening up, like so many layers of the onion that were just peeling back while you were just talking. I mean, I have a million questions. I have so many questions. I'm like, how much time do you have? Like, where do I start? You know?
Go for
So
it.
I'm glad that you're here for it and you're here for us and just that you've been here for yourself all this time because it's wonderful to at least be stubborn enough to try, you know?
Yes.
Like say
Yes.
what you will about, your stubbornness, I was so stubborn, but if it wasn't for me being stubborn, I wouldn't be on this path. I
You
would
know, I
this
think we
Mhm.
probably need to change the word stubborn because I think stubborn, I like the word stubborn because I think I can see it within myself. But if we flip the switch and we call it maybe more persistent,
Hmm.
we're ready to do what it takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And perseverant, persistent and perseverant. Like somebody told me, consistency and persistency means keep going, but perseverance means push through,
Yeah. Yeah.
like that push through, like no matter what adversity, no matter what obstacle, no matter what hurdles are in your way, like keep, like push, you
Yes,
know?
we teach you. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
that's what I think a lot of people lack on this journey, and especially on this path when you're doing fasting and you're healing the body. A lot of people are taught to fear the uncomfortable parts of this journey,
exactly.
and that's why they give up, and they don't understand that or understand that this is a part of the journey. It's not always a comfortable process. We have to make compensation for the wrongs we've done to ourselves. It's almost like karmic retribution a little bit. So it's not really always a comfortable process. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. There's going to be healing crises. There's going to be times where you feel like shit. And
Hmm.
people are being taught to fear that. They don't understand that that's the body's healing process, is that when inflammation occurs, that's because the body is sending blood flow to that area for healing. People are taught to suppress that with anti-inflammatories, which is actually stopping the healing process. So it's like all of these things that we need to undo in our mind and understand that the body is doing what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Fever is also a function of healing, yet
Mm.
people are taught to fear that and suppress it. So it's like, this is where it's like that unlearning process. So when you're detoxing and you feel like shit, that's a part of the process.
Yeah.
Don't fear it. Just be comfortable in the uncomfortable phases of that journey. And as long as, usually, if you've prepared the body enough, those symptoms will be minimal, but there's still like you could be years down the path and still have a healing crisis come up.
Hmm.
So, like, say, for example, I've been on this path for 3 years now.
Hmm.
I don't have many detox symptoms when it comes to fasting. I pretty much live a fasted lifestyle now. I don't eat every day. I probably fast on every given week. I'm probably fasting maybe 3 days of the week and eating foods maybe 4 days. Sometimes it may change, but that's kind of how I live my life. And also dry fast as well. So I don't really eat that much anymore. But if I do go into a advanced level protocol and I'm maybe doing a long fast, I don't really get many detox symptoms anymore. The only detox symptoms I usually get are related to emotional releases. And
Okay.
as we know, like it can take years to heal ourselves from that. I
Sure.
mean, I still have a lot of healing to do in terms of lymphatic system and stuff like that. But for me, I've kind of pushed through that hard period.
Mm.
Usually, like the first 1 to 3 years can be a bit tricky with
Okay.
detoxification symptoms. But most people will kind of realize that if they're fasting regularly and they're living a mucusless diet, then usually about maybe 1 to 2 years of regular fasting, they should start to be able to move into this lifestyle with minimal detoxification symptoms.
For sure. For
But
sure.
during that period of time, you're also realizing, reaping the rewards. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't take long. It does not take long to feel the magic of this path. Like I sometimes do public group fasts. I actually have a private community, but
Hmm.
I will sometimes open up to the public to do like a group fast. And
Hmm.
I just recently had one, a 3 week fast. And by the end of week 3, some of the people in that group were just like, oh my gosh, one lady dropped 8 kilos of inflammation, completely changed her life just in
Wow.
3 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
So it doesn't take long to start reaping the rewards, but it's still going to be a bit of a rocky journey depending on what personal health challenges are. I actually say that the emotional stuff, the emotional detox, is the most challenging part of the journey
Mm.
for many, especially women.
Okay.
Women are kind of, a little bit more emotional, but I actually call this journey is the true dark night of the soul, because when you take away the food, and a lot of us, especially for me, and I know that a lot of people may resonate with this, is that we've actually been programmed to be binge eaters to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And this stems from childhood, even infancy, like after weaning, where I think our parents, our mother and father, unknowingly kind of put this on us, where if we were fussing, if we were angry, upset, or something like that, usually mothers, the first thing they'll do, are you hungry? And just shove food in our face, right? And then we're kind of programmed to associate unbalanced emotions or unsettled emotions with food to suppress that emotion. So a lot of us have actually been using food to suppress boredom, to suppress sadness, to suppress frustration, and we'll just reach for the food and eat it, right? And that's kind of what created that binge eating tendency in me. As soon as I was bored, if I was deeply emotional, I would comfort myself with food. So when you start going on this journey of less is more, you start fasting, you start eating less, especially if you go on a long fast, you take away that suppression of the emotion. You have to actually let it come up, and you have to face it, and you have to sit with it. And then all of those emotions that you've suppressed over the years, those blocked emotions that are kind of blocking up those energy pathways, they come up to be released.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have moments where, like I've had moments, I think it was like even, was it the last long fast or the fast before that? I actually had a moment where some deep sadness and grief came up, and I was just bawling my eyes out for about 2 hours. I didn't know where it came from, but it was really just deep. And funnily enough, the next day after I had this big release, I had like this big release of also mucoid plaque.
Wow.
So I think the mucoid plaque is a conglomerate of many different things, but I actually sense that it can also be those stagnant emotions that we've been holding inside of us.
Yeah.
And that can kind of come out as physical waste as well once we release it.
Wow.
It was just a really interesting observation that I made. And I don't have much mucoid plaque come out anymore. Like
Okay.
it took me about, and this is the thing, people think that they can do one fast and they're going to be clean. No. It took me about 2 years for me to stop having mucoid plaque coming out regularly.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Right? 2 years to have a good clean out of the GI tract. 2 years.
And they
And
want it to be gone in 2 days. And
I
you're
know.
saying it took 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
if I do have it come out now, it's very rarely. As I said, it was due to this big emotional release that I had.
Right.
So I think this world, this paradigm that we're shifting, many of us are shifting out of this paradigm. I call it the paradigm of disease, control, and chaos. That paradigm has taught people how to be victims, right? To rely on the system, to believe all these mind control programs, these fake sciences or theories pushed as truth. And there's also this other program that's been put onto us as to a quick fix mentality.
Right.
How do we suppress the symptom to remove the painful problem fast, right? So there's this quick fix mentality, and it's not even a fix, but it's just a figure of speech. Quick fix mentality, where people will just go and suppress the symptoms. They'll suppress the painful problem. They want things done fast. So if they've got a headache, they'll take Panadol just to remove the pain now. Whereas that's actually a signal that something's going wrong and it shouldn't be suppressed.
Right.
So that's also filtering through to the world of self-healing and detoxification. People think that they can do one fast and they're going to be healed. Then they get disappointed when they don't get results. And this is the thing, like, I just say to people, like if people are talking to me and I say, what's your purpose for fasting? I just want to lose weight. And I say, well, have you thought about why the weight's there? You need to go back to the root cause. And that's what you should be focusing on. Start focusing not on just healing one element of yourself. Focus on healing your whole self, right? And the whole self, it's not just one weight issue. It's inner pollution of everything. And that's the root cause of all disease. We always need to go back to the root cause. The root cause is because the terrain, the body is polluted on some level. And that can be emotional, mental, physical, spiritual. Those are the four main energy bodies that interface with our human experience, right? So that's the thing. It's like when we heal ourselves as a whole, we're focusing on those four key energy bodies. We know that there's more, but those are the four main ones that we're focusing on to heal ourselves in this physical experience. The body, obviously, being the densest layer, the emotions, the mental, and then the spiritual that kind of connects us to our higher self. But
Sure.
that's the thing. Focus on your whole being. And that's the, how we're talking about the mental aspect. You need to focus on all elements of your being. You can't just, like, people are going to focus on the body with just detox alone. And then because they're not focusing on the emotions and the mental aspect, they're still harboring limiting beliefs, or
Mm.
they're getting FUD, right? They're not managing their emotions.
Right.
They're only going to get so far. It's like and this is probably not the right word to say, but they cock block their own healing, right? Through mental and emotional processes.
Right. Right. Right.
And and then you'll have people on the flip side who will do amazing things with healing spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, but then they don't do the detox.
Mm.
And there's only so far they're going to get as well. So,
You need all these pieces, to fit the whole puzzle. We need every piece, it's like
absolutely.
these are the keys, like you called it, the inner key. I really like that analogy, of a key that unlocks these doors that we can walk through, but we can't gain access if we don't use these keys at our disposal, and we have them within us. So I mean, this is tremendous, what you're talking about. Like, this is so true on so many levels that, if we only work on one area, and you're asking them the wonderful question, well, how did it get there in the first place? Like, what was the cause to the effect?
Exactly.
Let's reconnect back. Let's go back to the roots, because if we don't change the root, we can't change the fruit, that you've been
Yep.
getting from the roots that are deep, deep entrenched. They're down in the soil. You can't see them. The roots are in darkness. The roots are
Yup.
they're underneath the tree. So this
I
this is
love that.
so, yeah. Yeah, it's perfectly explained when you're talking about, so eloquently put, because I mean, there's been so many times where, yeah, like, if you try to work on something physically, but you haven't taken care of the mental. You've seen people that the weight will get off and then they'll gain it back, and then they'll get the weight off and then they'll gain it back, and they'll get the weight off, and it's like a yo-yo. They're just yo-yoing back and forth, and just on the balance beam of, fasting and feasting, and increasing, right? And
Yep.
then there's, some people will even go as far as getting liposuction. They'll get surgery. Somebody will, like, cut them open, and they'll get surgery, liposuction, to get all that weight off, but they haven't taken care of this.
Yes.
This is not, so they just somehow they gain it all back, and that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it
Heartbreaking to
is.
see somebody gain it all back when they went through all of that trouble, just the sacrifice to get it all off, in such a way that was drastic. Like, they were at a point of no return, and then what have they learned? You know?
That's the thing. It's like we're all here learning lessons, and if people don't learn the lesson, they're just going to repeat that cycle over and over again.
Right.
And you touched on a really important topic, which is cause and effect, which is the universal law, and that's people need to realize this, that every effect has a cause. If
Hmm.
you're going to eat shit food, that's going to have an effect.
Right.
If you're going
Right.
to continue to live in a stressful environment, that's going to have an effect. And everything is, all of these things are contributing to the internal poisoning of our terrain, right? And you can also look at cause and effect as karma.
Mm.
And that, I think cause and effect really is just another word for karma.
Okay.
And that will come back to us in various ways. Do you know what I mean? And it may
Yeah.
not be immediately noticed,
Right.
but it will. It's impacting you. Like, say, for example, people eating flesh, they think that it's doing nothing to them, but the effect of eating flesh is obviously you're going to have uric acid built up because
Mhm.
we don't excrete the enzyme uricase to break down that uric acid. So then you're going to get kidney stones. You're going to get all these things. The protein from that is also really obstructive to the kidneys. So
Mm.
even though I think it's because people can't see within themselves, within their body, that they think that there's no effect. But at the end of the day, this stuff compounds over time. And
Right.
then 10, 15, 20 years down the track, all of a sudden they've got some heinous disease. They've got high blood pressure. They have a heart attack, or they get cancer because
Yeah.
of all the acidic waste within their body. So cause and effect is just one of the most basic principles that we need to live by.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love how you describe it, Renee. You know, when you're talking about these karmic retributions or even like paying reparations for the things that happened so long ago that you don't even realize or even remember, but you know, your body has ways of reminding you. You know, it
Hmm.
has ways of reminding you like, oh yeah, remember that thing? Like remember all of that McDonald's, all of that takeout. You know, there was a lady that was telling me and she's from Australia, and she said, you know, I've been vegan for like 6 years, and I haven't had flesh for 10, and I'm still getting rid of this stuff. You know, like
Yes.
I was eating McDonald's and takeout, you know, Mickey D's and all of that stuff when I was, you know, so young, you know, when I was a child, when I was in my adolescence, when I was in my youth. This is what's that, you know, this is what that stuff is from. She was saying this is from like ancient, you know, this is years ago that she was getting rid of this stuff. Just like you said, she said it smelled like death when it was coming out. It was just completely toxic, and the body just holds on. It can hold on for decades. You know, there's
Yeah.
a lady said that, you know, she had a medication that she was taking, and then when she got rid of this mucoid plaque, all of a sudden the symptom that she was taking the medication for
Yes.
completely evaporated, just went away, you
Yeah.
know? And it was almost like it was just waiting for this sedentary, you know, this waste, this uneliminated waste matter to finally be released. So
Absolutely.
it just sounds like when you talk about cause and effect and when you talk about karma, it's almost like the compound interest that we acquire or we accrue through, you know, swiping the credit card.
Come back to get, yeah.
You gotta pay it back at some point, you know? You can't get
Absolutely.
away. No, nobody gets away. Yeah.
No, nobody gets away. And this is probably going to blow your mind, but it was actually, I think it was the last fast. Okay, no, I think it was the last fast. You know how I talked about releasing the grief and sadness,
Yeah.
and grief and sadness, from what I understand, from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, your lungs are related to grief and sadness.
Mhm.
And I respect TCM for many things in terms of their energetic principles and understanding of the, that system in our body. Uh, Funnily enough, like I've gone through a lot of grief and sadness in my life, and I've had lung issues as well. I was also a chronic smoker for about 20 years. Believe it or not, 20 years of smoking on and off. And anyway, on my last long fast, I started having, as I said, this release of grief and sadness. Around the same time, my boyfriend actually said to me, he's like, "Have you been smoking?" He could smell cigarettes on my breath.
What?
Yes, it was like it was coming out, this gas being released that
Whoa,
smelled
whoa.
like cigarettes.
Wait. How? Hold on. And you hadn't been smoking for how long?
About 5 years, maybe 5 or
And
6 years.
and he smelled something, an aroma coming from you, and asked you if you were smoking.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, this was on my last long fast. And not only that, I was also having some breathing difficulties on this fast, which is a symptom of lung healing as well
Okay.
if you're fasting. So
Okay.
I had all these lung related symptoms. The grief and sadness came up big time, just like smacked me around. And had like this, yeah. And I also had the taste of cigarettes in my mouth. I also had this happen one other time after my long fast. It was right after I broke my fast, there was a good month where I could taste cigarettes and smell it so strongly. It felt like someone was smoking in my room.
Oh my gosh.
So the weird things that happen on this journey, well, it's yeah, it's very interesting. But for my boyfriend to actually smell it on my
Hmm.
breath was just crazy.
That's confirmation. That's like
Yeah.
confirmation. Like it didn't even come from you. So you know you're not crazy at that point. You're like, okay, I'm not going crazy.
Yes. Because you do sometimes you're like, this is just so crazy.
Right.
I know that like weird stuff happens, you just got to open up to it, but when you get confirmation, it kind of just affirms that it's really happening.
Yeah, that affirmation and that confirmation, just to have that release and to have that from, you know, your partner, you know, just
Yeah.
to have your divine counterpart let you know, hey, you know, hey, I'm wondering, like, are you smoking again? And you're like, whoa, I must be getting deep into this detox thing because, you know,
Yeah.
that was years ago. So the body really has the capacity to just hold on, well, like you said, just all the levels, not only physically but emotionally, mentally. We just hold on to things for so long, and it eats us up inside.
Yeah,
Somebody,
literally
somebody,
does.
it literally does. Like somebody told me, he said, never hold a grudge against somebody. Like never harbor that anger or that hatred or that wrath towards somebody else, because he said it's like drinking poison and waiting for someone else to die.
Oh,
You
wow.
know? That's what he
Yeah,
told me, Renee. He was like, it doesn't hurt them at all, but it eats you up inside. you know so my goodness, before I ask any of my questions, because there's an abundance of what I want to ask you, but I know that there were a few things that people were asking earlier. One of the things is from Haruka is from Japan. Haruka is asking, Renee, should we do mucoid plaque cleanse before going on a long fast?
absolutely. Absolutely. And there's this, people don't really have the understanding of how the body works. And this is really important. We have the lymphatic system, which is, you could pretty much say that that's our primary detoxification symptom. It carries all the waste from all the cells from all over your body.
Mm,
And that's the circulatory system as well. Or it's not really a circulatory system, but it's like a vein, it has, veins and so forth.
mm,
Or it's a pipe system, you could say, pipe system.
mm,
And that's kind of like the main system that carries waste. Then you've got your drainage pathways, the pathways of elimination. So you have your colon, where usually everything goes wrong in the first place in terms of incorrect eating. Then you've got your liver, the kidneys, the skin, and the lungs. Okay, so you've got these 5 drainage pathways, and a lot of them are kind of draining for your lymph. So really what you want to do, and when we're cleansing, essentially, or when we're detoxing, we're wanting to clean the lymphatic system. That's the main, and the blood, obviously, but
mm,
we need to clean the lymph. That's one of the main focuses. Before you can do that, we really need to start opening the drainage pathways
mm,
so you have a clear pathway for that lymph to drain out of, right? Number one is the colon. You have to open up that pathway. And then liver, kidneys. Kidneys are pretty much the filtration. They're like the gateway for the lymphatic system. If your kidneys aren't filtering properly, then you're basically pissing in the wind in terms of being able to detox properly.
wow.
So people need to understand that you just don't go into a long fast like I did. I ended up doing it and I ended up in trouble with severe detoxification symptoms, because if the pathways aren't blocked, right? Think about your system as a pipe system. Your body's this pipe system. You've got your intestines, you've got the circulatory system, you've got your lymph, nerve, your energetic meridians. They're all these kind of pathways, right?
Mhm,
And now if you think about like the colon and all of that as a pipe system, right? And if your pipes are blocked and you start releasing a lot of waste, you're going to have this bottleneck, right? This bottleneck where the waste is getting released, but it's not coming out fast enough.
right.
So you can actually end up in a bit of trouble in terms of the waste poisoning you within. So it's trying to be released, but it's not, right? So people have ended up in trouble. Severe detoxification symptoms because they haven't honored an initial purification of the body. So
Um,
I always start with, if I'm guiding anyone, and especially in my private community, I actually have a program,
mhm,
and the program spans over, really about 6 months. It could be up to 6 months. The first 1 to 3 months are just preparing the body, and we're
mhm,
just gently preparing the body. This is where I come back to this quick fix mentality where people just want to jump straight onto a long fast
right.
and they just want to do it. I'm like, just slow and steady. And if you want to sustain this lifestyle, if you want to raise your frequency, a slow and steady approach is better and it's more sustainable.
Mhm,
It's way more sustainable.
mhm,
So, and you can do it around everyday life.
right.
You can still go to work. You can still, exercise. And until you get into that long fast where I recommend just gentle on the exercise, but, just still doing it, but just more gentle.
Right.
But yes, colon
So,
cleanse is the first step.
okay. Okay.
Or
Number
even
one.
preparing. Yeah, but even you need to prepare for that as well. It depends what your life is like. If you're eating mucus and pus forming foods, before you even go on a colon cleanse, you're also doing a preparation phase before that, right?
Okay.
Then you go into the colon cleanse, and then you start really trying to support the organs and soft tissues a little bit more, open up those pathways a bit more, then go into a long fast. If that's what you do. And a long fast is technically anything over 7 days.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
considered a long fast. Got you.
long fast. Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, depending on how experienced you are, how confident you feel, a long fast can be anything. I just really say to within my program, if you're quite new to it and you don't feel comfortable, just go for 2 weeks. And then you might go for 3 weeks. But I generally say don't do, depending on the person themselves, like the individual. I don't really take anyone over, 40 days. If somebody's healthy, maybe go to 40 days. If someone's not so healthy, just go for 2 weeks.
Okay.
You gently ease your way into this lifestyle. That doesn't mean you can't go back later when the body's a little bit cleaner and go longer,
Yeah.
right? It's just
It's
gently working your way up.
it's so interesting that you say that too, because there's a lot of people that have almost a backwards view of what you just spoke on, Renee, when it comes to they think that because they have a lot of weight on them, or because they have a lot of fat, or because they have a lot, you know, that's been stored up, they think that they would go the distance longer than somebody who's healthier. Can you speak on that? Because it seems to
Yeah,
be, people think like, oh, if you don't have a lot of fat on you, you won't last as long as somebody who does. That's very interesting.
well, I'll give you my perspective on that, and that's factually incorrect.
Right.
It just means that the person who has more fat on their body has more obstruction to remove. They actually have more work to do. It doesn't mean they should go faster. But there's the idea that comes from, I think that comes from the idea of autophagy, which I don't really agree with, because the idea of autophagy means that we feast on our own body. We basically cannibalize our own body to get energy from. Maybe that's true to a certain degree for people who still exist in that world, but our true energy source comes from the creator. So there's been
Now we're
people
getting
who
juicy. We're getting juicy now. We're getting
that's the
juicy.
thing. It's like you just have more waste to remove. That's it.
Wow.
The idea of fattening yourself up for a fast just means that you're having to do more work to remove that waste.
Right. Right.
So I don't agree with fattening yourself up for a fast. By all means, and that's what the body does. It just strips waste when you're fasting. It just strips the waste. So
I
if
agree.
somebody is fatter, they just have more work to do in terms of to remove that material waste.
Right.
And I don't know if you've gotten into any of Arnold Ehret's work.
Yes. Yeah, the
Yeah,
mucusless
and
diet, rational
yeah,
fasting. Yeah.
it's critical knowledge for anyone to read at the start of this journey. And anyone who comes into my community, I just say you have to read this.
Right.
You have to read it because it is going to set you up for success. And this is having that knowledge was the only reason why I was able to be so persistent in staying the path after my long fast, even though I shifted a little bit too fast. So that's the thing. It's like you remove the FUD when you have the right knowledge. And that's what was able to get me through. But Arnold Ehret calls fat half decomposed watery flesh. You're not getting
Whoa.
energy from that shit.
Can you say that? Can you say that again?
Half decomposed watery flesh.
Half decomposed, watery flesh. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, most of it. I think there's like a certain fat that we have, that protects organs and stuff, like to a certain degree, a very small amount.
Okay.
But for the bulk load of what we understand as fat, the puffy fat that we have in the body, that's from what Arnold Ehret calls half decomposed watery flesh.
Okay.
Inflammation.
Yeah, inflammation rules the nation.
Yeah,
We're in an inflammation situation, right?
exactly. And it's related to lymphatic system, lymphatic stagnation.
For sure. For sure. And as well, I've heard of so many people like you see John Rose. If you know John Rose, you see people who will go on and they'll talk about these things where, hey, I was working out. I was very physically fit, so I thought, I was very athletic. I had, this such inch waist, but then I still had just this little bulge down there. I was wondering, where's this little bulge coming from? Like, I'm doing all this exercise, I'm doing all these crunches, I'm working out, I'm walking, I'm jogging, I'm running, I'm sprinting, and I still got this little bulge. And then when he released the mucoid plaque and he saw that it was just the uneliminated waste matter, like that's what was making that bulge, that just was this this weird bulge in his gut, you know,
Yeah.
it changed his life forever, you know? So when you're talking about people, Renee, who, you know, like yourself, you said it took you 2 years. You know, people wanted to take 2 days, or at the very maximum, they wanted to be 2 weeks. You said it took you 2 years to start really, you know, eliminating all of these deep structures, these organisms, these elements, you know, this foreign matter, this plaque, these parasites. And I also enjoy what you said about parasites. You say you don't blame the parasites. You know, you're like, the organisms are only there because the conditions are ideal. You know,
Yeah.
like we've given them a home, like a place to stay. You
And
know.
that is the critical thing that people need to realize if they want to be their own self-healer, is that they need to step out of victim mentality. And blaming parasites for their disease is absolving them of their own self-destruction, because the
Okay.
parasites are only there, as you said, we invited them into our home.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's like, you know how in the movies that you have to invite the vampire into your home.
Yes.
It's the same thing with parasites, right? And not only that, there's some, from what I understand, and this is another rabbit hole people can go down, is that we actually have endogenous parasites that the body actually creates to deal with certain toxic situations.
Whoa.
Yeah. Not
Whoa.
only that, fungus can be created within the body as well. And that's why when we die, we decompose, because the fungus was always there waiting to do its role.
Oh my God.
Fungus is actually nature's decomposing organism. It's there to decompose stuff. So if people have fungal issues within the body, it's because they've got waste within the body that needs to be decomposed, right? So food and shit like that. Or they actually have diseased tissue that is being eaten by these organisms because it's diseased. So an interesting concept to kind of percolate on is that only diseased cells attract parasitic action. If your
Oh my
cells are healthy and your terrain is clean, you're no longer an energetic match. Your body doesn't need the parasites there. So
Mm,
people need to start getting out of this mindset of parasites are the cause of cancer, parasites cause of, no, you are the cause of your disease. Like, you caused this shit.
mm.
You allowed it to happen. Start
Wow.
being self-responsible and bypassing responsibility. Like, all
Right.
this parasite stuff is just a part of the psyop
Hmm.
of blaming organisms. And that also circles it back around to the germ theory
Hmm.
and virology fallacy that we're taught to fear organisms. And virology, now that's another thing, I won't really get into that, that's a big topic, but virus is actually essentially just dead cell debris from being
Hmm.
poisoned. And we're taught to fear this stuff. It's dead, it's inert. And there's a lot of stuff, people can go out there and research it. And I went down this rabbit hole big time, obviously, when I was going down this rabbit hole.
Hmm.
But a lot of it is just mind control program, and it's very believable. It's very believable because of the whole contagion idea.
Yeah.
And
You
I
know,
won't get into that, but a lot of magnetic resonance and
mhm.
people detoxing at the same time, because cold and flu is essentially just the body's automatic detox response that happens
Mhm.
when the conditions are ideal because there's excess pus and mucus in the body.
Mm. My goodness. You know, I needed to hear just this. Like this message was directly, I don't know if somebody else caught these words. I needed to hear this, spoke directly to me just now, what you were saying, because my goodness, Renee, you know, you must be psychic because I mean, my father, so growing up, you know, he had this skin condition and I witnessed him, you know, growing up, and I got the same condition. And he was like, "Oh, son, it's just genetic. You know, it's a fungal thing. It's a fungal infection. It's just genetic. You know,
It
even
can be genetic though. This stuff can be passed down through the bloodline,
okay.
but
Oh,
it's our responsibility to heal it.
right, exactly. Exactly. It may not be our fault, but it is our responsibility because
Exactly.
we have the response to the ability.
Yeah.
So, you know, when he calls it teeny versicolor or teenius versicolor, some complex name, but it's a fungal infection, and it's been plaguing him for years. But it's just, you know, just on top of the skin, and I got it too. And I just, for the longest time, I just dealt with it. You know, I just, okay, you know, every time that I sweat or every time, you know, I work out, it gets very itchy. Just all these things happen, I just wondered what do I do about this? And he said, oh, you just use this ketamine lotion, like this lotion. You just put this lotion, this cream. You just lather your body with this cream, and you'll be right as rain. You'll be fine. It'll start disappearing. It'll start going away. Just keep using this cream. And I don't know, maybe my intuition just told me at one point, just Jerome, stop using that. Like stop using that cream. Whatever that cream is, there's another way. There must be another way. And I recall, if you know this gentleman named Fasting with Trevor, he's
Yes.
gone like to the limits. He's gone, 21 days dry fasting. And he said that it was a fungal infection for him too. It was like something life-threatening. And he cured himself. That's his slogan, earn your cure. That,
Yes.
when he went the distance, prolonged, 21 days without food and water, he said it kicked it out, it was gone.
Mm.
So, I mean, these things really have a tendency to hold on, that I'm feeling your words were just really penetrating me, and really percolating. That's my new favorite word. That's my new favorite word, Renee. Percolate. You gave me a new word, percolate. They were penetrating and percolating through my body just now when you said, hey, if you have, a fungal infection, that's indicative. That's an indication of a lower vibration. That's an indication of some cellular frustration. That's an indication of a deeper situation that you might want to look into. So even after all of the stuff that I'm doing, like, I still have a lot more work to do, for sure.
Oh, and don't we all? I know I still have a lot of work to do. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of people get dismayed at the idea that we can be years into this journey and still have work to do.
Right.
And the man that I learned to fast off, his name's Gino, and he created the Master Fast System.
Okay.
Amazing man, lots of knowledge.
Mhm.
He's been on this journey for like 30 years. And he
Wow.
taught me that 9 years is a good start to clean the body from a lifetime of damage. And I was like, wow, that seems like a long time. So I think you just have to, as you know, persistence, perseverance, patience, all of these really uh, virtuous values and qualities we need to hold within ourselves. And we
Mhm.
just need to surrender to the process. And the thing is that, as I said, we start experiencing the benefits soon, but then I think it's just being able to surrender. And I think that's the spiritual element that comes into it, being able to have that faith and surrender to the process, and not just look at it as like, I'm going to be healed in 3 years.
Mhm.
Just go on the journey and don't have this expectation or end date as to when you think you're going to be healed.
Mhm.
Just enjoy the process, enjoy the revelations, enjoy what you learn on the way,
Yes. Yes. Step by
or else
step.
it's going to feel frustrating
Mhm.
that you're not getting to this destination, right?
Right.
Just keep going on the journey and enjoy it.
Yes, that's great advice. Great advice, just great wisdom for people who are being frustrated, you know, and just being unfulfilled by their seemingly lack of progress. They seemingly haven't made any headway with where they saw themselves to be at this point in present time. But you're saying it's all divine, just, take it step by step, day by day, breath by breath, and don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about when you'll get there. Just start walking,
Yes,
just
and
start
stay in the
walking.
path.
Yeah.
And the thing is that sometimes it's a journey, it's not a linear path,
Right.
People think it's going
Exactly.
to be this, I'm going to go straight, I'm going to be perfect the whole way along. No.
Mhm.
There's going to be times when you take like a few steps back or do a little loop the loop.
Mhm.
I've gone back to cook foods a couple of
Mhm.
times,
Mhm.
occasionally, depending on what emotional season that I'm in. If I've had something traumatic, it's
Mhm.
kind of, I've taken a step back for grounding purposes and gone to cook foods.
Mhm.
And it really depends on where your frequency is, you know what I mean? So it's like trying to find that emotional balance.
Yeah.
But when I was going through those periods, I didn't like beat myself up. I just had compassion for myself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just went, this is just a step in your path.
Yeah.
You will move on when you're ready. And I did, right? And I think I heard of Brother Air. Do you know who
Mhm.
Brother Air is? He's
I've
one of,
heard of.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I remember listening to one of his, oh, it was so long ago, but he was doing a talk. I think it was on one of his on Facebook, I found it somewhere, and he was talking about how on his transition, he actually leaned on toast for a good period of time, like in his
Mhm.
transition. He took a step back. And I think it was from memory. Now, don't
Mhm.
quote me on this. I think 12 months. He ate toast regularly. It was just like this tool that he used to kind of anchor himself to get him through. And then he was able to transition away from it. So
Interesting.
There's this idea that we need to be perfect on this journey, and I think that's unrealistic. It's just being consistent is more important. And as you said, on the path, right?
Okay. So progress is over perfection. We need to,
Yes.
yeah. It's about your direction. Like, don't worry about the perfection. Worry about your direction. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I just I feel like we could do a whole nother, like we could do
Chat.
like two, three, four more talks like this, and we'd still be scratching the surface. What just
Yeah.
one thing that I do want to make sure that I ask you about, Renee, is when you talked about your spiritual awakening, and you said that there was a portion of time where you had an out of body experience, like you were astral projected, or somehow you came out of your temple, like you came out of your body, and you spoke about this being, or you said it wanted this for me, or it was trying to show me this, or it wanted that for me. And I would just love to hear your description of it, like what it
Oh,
is.
oh, look, I don't even really know how to describe this properly in words. I try my best and I always feel like I fall short, but I'll do my best. I think it was my divine self. Like I was shown my divine self. Or my divine self showed me what I truly was and what was
Mhm.
possible, if that makes sense. And it was such a crazy experience. And it's weird looking back at it because it's so crazy that sometimes I go, did that really happen? Because it's just so, and I think because it happened a while back. When was it? 2019. So it's like 6 years
Right.
ago. And the further I get away from it, the more distant it feels, if that makes sense.
Like a
And the
dream?
more like a dream, but I know it
Okay.
happened. So I have to keep reminding myself that it happened and keep trying to anchor that memory of
Right.
that's what is possible, you know?
Right.
Um, yeah, but I think, I don't know, but I sense it was my divine self because I felt when I went back to, well, kind of left the body,
Mhm.
it was like I was my true self and I felt perfect. I felt like I was everything and nothing all at once. And I don't want to say, I don't think there was any kind of emotion. There was no, but I just felt like what you would probably say is bliss,
Mm.
completely at peace, just
No, no pain, just bliss.
nothing,
Yeah.
nothing, but it was so peaceful. And yeah, that's the best way that I can describe it. And it kind of falls short of what it was, but
Yeah,
that's it.
because you use this wonderful word, Renee, and you use this word to describe, like, when you talk about the realm, you know?
Right.
Like some people talk about this earth plane, this existence, this life, and this world. You use the word realm. It's like an all-encompassing the realm, like the universe, the cosmos, for the realm, for the good of the realm.
Mm.
And what sort of realm do you feel you transcended, or that you were in that state of consciousness? Like what realm do you feel you were in? If you weren't in this realm, where were you?
I have no idea, but it was definitely not a part of this place.
Mm.
That's probably the best way to describe it. And when I came back into body, I was just like, this place is just such a joke. But it was funny. It wasn't like coming from a place of hate. It was just like, this place is such a joke. Like, try not to
Like a
take it too seriously.
like a cosmic joke,
Yeah, pretty much. And I was
like the
just,
Truman
that's why I
Show.
was laughing at everything, going, I don't need any of this stuff. This is all just, worldly things.
And you said that was the thought, or the seed that was planted. Like,
Yeah,
you Renee, you don't actually need anything.
no, no, none of us do.
Yeah.
But I think we believe we do. It's very easy to be stuck in that frequency in this realm because it's a lot denser down here.
Mhm.
You always you get stuck in that world of consumption and the belief systems and everything like that. And I'm still trying to get back there. I'm not trying, I'm actively doing that, doing the
Right,
work,
right.
doing the fasting, living a life of less is more,
Mhm.
and starting to anchor that frequency back. But it's a journey and
Right.
it's a slow one. There's no, you can't really rush it.
Yeah. So then I guess I should ask, where do you see, what do you envision for the future of humanity with that kind of consciousness, with like, a pranic awareness, or what people have been popularizing today when they talk about breath air, like breatharianism, or, just the idea that you can live on less, or that you can live on light, or
Yeah,
certainly, a lot less than what we're used to. Where do you see us heading? I know it's not linear. I know it's,
yeah.
a circular path, but where do you see for the future of us as human beings?
Well, it's hard to say exactly, but I think what see happening at the minute is that there's definitely a split happening. And I think
Mhm.
the split, everyone's been feeling the split for a while. And as I kind of say, there's like the paradigm of disease, control, and chaos. And then there's the paradigm of truth, empowerment, and vitality, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of us are kind of shifting over into that new paradigm. And it's that slow frequency shift that we're going on. A lot of people are staying stuck over here and they
Mhm.
don't want to move. And I don't even think they're meant to move. I think they're meant to stay there. So I don't think, and I don't know, like I don't really have all the answers, but I sense that a lot of the people that we see in the outer world are a part of this realm. They're not really a part of the creator. They don't
Mhm.
have the creative spark.
Mhm.
And they're just going to stay here, right? They're a part of the system. But for us who are shifting over to this new paradigm, I think that movement is growing. And I think obviously the power of social media, even though, media in all of its elements isn't so positive in many ways, but we can use it for our benefit, as we know, right? So it helps us spread our circle of influence and it helps us get our message out there a lot more. So I think a lot of people are slowly starting to pick up on that resonance and wanting to shift back into this lifestyle of less is more, cleaning the body, returning to nature, becoming their own healer, becoming that self-empowered healer.
Yeah.
So I think over maybe the next 10 to 15 years, the pendulum swing from that carnivore trend is going to slow down.
Okay.
And a lot of those people, they're going to start seeing the effects of that cause. And maybe they'll come back through the middle and find us. And that's where we start helping these people. So it's, I've already started seeing that
Mhm.
slowly, slowly. So I think it's just going to amplify over time. And as we know, the only way that we can help heal the world is by healing ourselves.
Absolutely.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people are really focused on healing the world or trying to fix the bigger issues of the world. And I just say, just start with yourself. And then from there, your magnetic resonance goes out. Those who are ready to kind of see what you're doing or hear your message will come to you when the time's right for them. So I just always say, let's focus on ourselves, keep spreading our magnetic resonance, especially for people like you who are putting the word out there, for me and for other people in this space. We've just got to keep beating the drum. And those who are ready to hear the message will find the message.
Oh, beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Beautifully put. Thank you, Renee. If this is somebody's first time seeing you, hearing you, and just feeling your energy, your vibrancy, and they say, you know what, I want to get in touch with this lady. I want to get in tune with this woman. I love her story. Let me see if she has any offerings. What is this inner key association? Like, what is this academy she has? What are these, services that she might have? Where should people go? What would be the best places for people to go to receive that?
Just DM me. Send me a DM if you're interested. The Inner Key Association, I just say it's with a caveat. It's for people who are really ready
Mhm.
to step away from harming themselves. It's for people who are ready to kind of go on this deep journey, because if they want to start cleansing themselves at the deepest level, like you do have to leave behind the mucus and pus forming foods. Now, this is a journey. There's no expectation to be perfect, as I said.
Right.
But if you're going to go on a long fast, you can't really go back to the world of consuming these injurious foods because you can actually injure yourself.
Mm.
So I always I don't want to say vet people, but I kind of just say, look, everyone's welcome to join the association, but are you ready? Are you ready for this journey? Because once you go on that journey, if you do a long fast, the thing is that when you're fasting, and tolerance is a thing, right? So our body builds up tolerances to injurious things. And this is the same for alcohol. So I don't know if you drank, I think you would have been like me, probably drank when you were younger. But when you used to have a couple of drinks when you were younger, you used to get really pissed. And then over time, your body built up tolerance to the alcohol, so you could drink maybe a whole bottle,
Right.
right? The same thing happens with food and salt and things like this that injure us in a highly sensitive state. So I don't even let people go onto a long fast until, well, I don't let people, but I recommend people
Right.
don't go into a long fast until they've been able to move away from vices such as salt, coffee. They've been able to break the addiction to pus and mucus forming foods. So this is why it's like a slow progression. Because when you come out of that long fast, if you eat those foods, your body no longer has the tolerance to them, so you can injure yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. And we learned that the hard way. The
Yeah.
hard way. I had to learn that the hard way too, for sure. It's like
Yes.
you become so sensitive that now you feel the effects of what was always happening. Now you
Yeah, but you didn't
feel it,
know.
you
Now you feel
know?
it because we
Yeah.
get our senses back.
Right. Right.
Because senses are how we, make sense of the world.
Yeah.
So people coming out of a long fast and they go and eat pus and mucus forming foods, they can injure themselves. Like I had a guy, this is before I started guiding people, but he was a close friend. He broke his fast, 40-day fast, with eggs and steak. And then he sent me a video of his pee and it had all this albumin, all these proteins coming out. And I was
Whoa.
like, what have you done? In his pee, it was like this pussy mucus stuff in his urine from
Wow.
eating these eggs and the steak. And I was like, dude, and you know what you've just done to your kidneys.
Jesus.
So I just say, look, you're welcome to join the association, but this is a journey of slowly moving away from things. So if people aren't ready to do that, if they're not ready to leave behind eating flesh, if they're not ready to stop injuring themselves in other ways, I just say maybe it's not the right time for you.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think I have my association, well, no, it's basically everyone's association, really. I just facilitate it. But
Mhm.
the association, really, I have a duty of care to make sure that I'm letting people in there that are ready for the shift, and that it's not going to, I don't want people to spend their money, right, if they're just going to waste it.
Right.
But
Brutal honesty.
it's there, it's open for all if
Mhm.
they're ready to take this journey.
Okay. I respect that.
Mm.
I respect that. And I just respect your honesty and just your openness and just being so candid, like about what it is, like
Yeah,
this is what it is. And, just be ready to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah.
But
My
yeah,
goodness.
just DM me. I have the
Okay.
program that will gently guide you through.
Okay.
We have weekly meetings. It's a really lovely community. We're quite small,
Okay.
but growing, slowly growing.
Growing. It's
So
growing. It's
yeah,
growing. The seeds are being planted as we speak. It's growing. The energy is flowing, and
exactly.
we know where it's going. We know. So, for people who are listening to this on the podcast, if you're listening to this on audio right now, follow Renee. So her Instagram is Ren_Sunglow. So that's REN_SUNGLOW. So definitely give her a follow, reach out, and like she said, her DMs are open. The door to her
Yes,
DMs are open for you.
absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Much love, Renee. Thank you so much. And I know your day is just starting. My day is coming to a close, but just have an amazing rest of your day. Yeah.
Yeah, and have a great evening, Jerome. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'd
Awesome.
love to come on and chat with you again if if you ever want to, just reach out.
Absolutely. We have to. We have to. We have
Too much to talk about.
too much. Too much. So we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. Have a great evening.
We'll do. Take care.
Bye,
Take,
everyone.
bye-bye.